Welcome back to Talk Jamaica here on Talk Jamaica Radio. We're streaming live at talkjamaicaradio.com, caribrhythms.com, and Zeno Radio. You can listen to us live as well via the Talk Jamaica Radio app, which you can download for free from the Google Play Store.
Well, it's a statistical dead heat between the two main political parties, the opposition Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, and the ruling People's National Party, PNP. According to the July 2015 Don Anderson polls commissioned by the RJR Communications Group, 26% said that they would vote for the JLP if an election was to be called. That's up from 25% when the same question was asked in the November 2014 survey.
But of note is a jump from 17% in the November 2014 polls to 25% in the July 2015 polls for those who said they would vote for the PNP if elections were to be called. The JLP's General Secretary, Dr. Horace Chang, has said that they are not bothered by the results, while his PNP counterpart, Paul Burke, said that while the results are encouraging, they will not be celebrating as they have more work to do.
Well, to examine these latest findings, we have online political analyst, blogger, and former newspaper columnist Mark Wignal, policy researcher and lecturer Jermaine Nairne, and we are supposed to be joined by Pollster Don Anderson, but we can't seem to get him, so we're going to press on. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Not bad at
Good
all.
afternoon.
Mark Wignal, let me start with you. We realize that the PNP has gained grounds on the JLP. Does this spell trouble for them? The JLP, that is.
Yes, no. It is still too early. It is still too early to read the tea leaves and make a determination that the JLP is in a bad position and the PNP is in a better position. What I think is happening is that the respondents in this particular poll, they are having a mix of what I would classify as anger and apathy. Mm-hmm. And it does appear to us as if we are probably headed for another low turnout election. But just looking at the numbers from even from further back, from March 2013, polls done by Anderson show that the JLP had a whopping 34% in March 2013. Then, of course, in November 2014, that went down to 25%, and they're now at 26%. So if any one of the two parties have really suffered, it is the JLP.
Mm-hmm. Jermaine?
I have to agree with Mr. Wignal on that one. As far as worrying is concerned, I think the Jamaica Labour Party should be more worried than the People's National Party, especially since it has only gained 1% over the time period, while the PNP has gained 8%. I mean, clearly there is a momentum that is happening regarding the PNP, and the JLP really isn't making it any better. So the worry would have to be on the part of the JLP, albeit this is just for now. Clearly this is not indicative of outcome, because there's a whole other 47% who said they wouldn't vote, which between now and the elections, both parties would actually try to reach out to.
Mark Wignal, Jermaine call it a momentum for the PNP, yes, but the JLP hasn't really lost ground. But what is it that you think the PNP is doing right, so to speak, why they could jump 8 percentage points while the JLP only jumped by 1?
Well, it is not so much what the PNP is doing right, it is what the JLP is failing to do. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at what is taking place in the economy now, or what is left of the economy, granted there are some impressive macroeconomic numbers, but when you speak to the man at street level, those macroeconomic numbers mean little to him and to his lady at home. The crime situation, violent crime, seems to be getting out of hand. Of course, the government has the public sector wage bill to deal with. There is so much happening now that should be pointing to serious negatives against the PNP, and it is really not happening to the extent that one would believe it would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it would seem to me that it is what the JLP is failing to do. It is not attracting the imagination of the people at this time.
You talk about attracting the imagination of the people, Mark Wignal, and a criticism of Andrew Holness has been that he's been aloof. Have you seen any change since he has been retained as the leader of that party in his approach to being the opposition leader?
I think that there's some in the electorate who would prefer to see a more engaging sort of a personality in the young Andrew Holness. There is a certain amount of aloofness in him. I don't think he can be anything other than himself. So, and I don't think he's prepared to remake himself just yet. So I have a problem with him in terms of the sort of political leaders we have had over the many years. He doesn't have that sort of what my father would call vim and vivacity. Mm-hmm. And I think our people need to not just hear the words that our political leaders are saying, but they want it to come with some expression, and they dearly want that particular expression to make them believe that the words are authentic.
Jermaine Nairne, do you expect the PNP to fully reverse these gains by the JLP?
To fully reverse the JLP's gains?
Yes.
The 1%? Well, I do expect the PNP to put in the work. They've actually demonstrated an ability to pull together when it is most necessary, something the JLP doesn't seem to be able to do. And as Mr. Wignal said, the JLP by now should have been in a position to be the more attractive of the two, but we're not seeing that at all. Now, we may point to unity, or should I say disunity, as an issue, and for many, that is their number one problem. But, I mean, the truth is it is number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You put that with the personality of the leader, and as Mr. Wignal said, you know, people want the kind of leader who is engaging, and the truth is, the reason the JLP had a little energy injected into it a while back was because of Audley Shaw's attempt to, let's say, dethrone Prince Andrew. Because in Audley Shaw, men found someone who was able to whip up the masses, right? Something Andrew Holness isn't able to do, or he hasn't demonstrated to know that he's able to do that. Now, couple the Portia factor, which clearly she's going to run in the next election, the Portia factor was their demonstrated ability to organize, their demonstrated ability to come together when it matters most, because it's not as if the PNP is more united than the JLP, but the PNP seem to be able to pull it together as a family, and at those times, internal problems remain internal, but the JLP is always about airing the dirty laundry in public. So you put those things together, if they continue on this path, we'll certainly see them overcoming the JLP by a lot, I think. You know, and if we were to go by another poll that Don Anderson did before, we see where Jamaicans are buying into the IMF program, and Jamaicans are looking forward to more jobs and an improved economy, etc.
Hello?
Mark Wignal?
Yes.
We spent a lot of time discussing. We spent a lot of time discussing Andrew Holness, and a lot of persons, I think, blame Andrew Holness for, you know, the JLP not doing better. But in terms of the party's organization management, a lot of people are saying, for example, at this point out in 2011, the PNP were starting to form a campaign. Should the General Secretary of the JLP bear some responsibility?
Well, you know that the history of the JLP, you know, it has always been a leader-strong party. And if you even go back and look at the PNP, at the time when Michael gave it up and it went to PJ Patterson, you went from a leader-strong party, and what you actually found happening was that because PJ didn't have that sort of a magic, it forced the PNP into an organization-strong party. And I think what is happening right now inside the the JLP cannot find any ground in the type of leadership it was always used to. That strong leadership. And that at the very time, and this is sad for the party, it doesn't have the type of organization that it needs now. And one suspects that it has something to do with funding, the lack of the party to get sufficient funding.
And is that a consequence, you think, of Holness's leadership or the general discord within the party?
Well, it may have to do with the economic situation of the country, and at this time, the big financiers, they are probably, trying to hedge their bets, while not even hedge their bets, but they're simply looking to see if one of the parties are going to stick out their neck in the polls, and then the big boys will say, okay, that is the one. Let us go and fund that one. A few days ago, I was talking to some of my political friends, and one of them suggested to me that in the race between Shaw and Holness, that a few PNP financiers or people with notional attachments to the PNP who have money, they actually gave money to the Holness campaign because they thought that they wanted to see a Holness Day rather than a Shaw. Now, I don't know how true this is, but it somehow tells you that the PNP would be more comfortable with the sort of aloofness that Holness is showing rather than the, chomping at the bit sort of a fella that Shaw would be.
All right, listeners, we're speaking to Jermaine Nairne and Mark Wignal about the recent Don Anderson polls, which show a statistical dead heat for both political parties. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we get more reactions from these two gentlemen. Stay with us.
Donna's Nail Creations, located at Salon Exquisite Village Plaza, Kingston, is a place to be for professional and unique nail care and designs. Come to Donna's Nail Creations for manicures, pedicures, French tips, refill, overlay, nail repair, tip, and acrylic. Check out their specials on pedicures for $799 and tip and acrylic for $15.99. That's Donna's Nail Creations at Salon Exquisite Village Plaza. Telephone 378-4919. Follow them on Instagram at DonnaMarie22.
You look good in the place, my girl. Hot in the place, my girl. Sexy, my girl. Swag turn up.
Grandeur Mail carries the trendiest, unique, and unusual clothing items at affordable prices. We are the one-stop spot we can get everything to suit your needs. We have various brand names such as Massimo Dutti, Paul Smith, Aeropostale, Guess, Pollens Bear, Tommy Hilfiger, and many more. We also carry our very own line of clothing in the store. We offer good customer service that will keep you wanting to come back, and not only to shop, but for the laughter and the warm comfort there is. We're located at Grandeur Plaza, 38 Constant Spring Road, Kingston 10, Jamaica. Telephone 754-8618, 410-5787. Follow us on Twitter at Mail Grandeur. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Grandeur Mail. Email us at grandeur.mail@gmail.com or check out our website at www.grandeurjamaica.com.
Sure Stitch Embroidery specializes in artwork, digitizing, embroidery, and screen printing on a wide variety of items to suit your needs. Visit us at 8 St. James Avenue, Kingston 5 off Maxfield Avenue. You can speak to the manager, Latoya Stewart, who will be more than happy to assist you. Opening hours are Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Telephone 754-5345 or cell 320-7308. Email surestitch2009@yahoo.com.
Listeners, welcome back to Talk Jamaica. We're streaming live at talkjamaicaradio.com. My name is Ricardo Brooks. We're speaking to Jermaine Nairne and Mark Wignal about the state of the political parties in light of Don Anderson's recent polls showing a statistical dead heat. Jermaine, there we're seeing a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but we're certainly seeing instances of discord in the PNP in terms of what traditionally is called infighting. Do you think there will be any impact on the party's chances at the polls as a result of what we're seeing now?
As I said before, they seem to know when to get it together. They're like a family unit that understands the enemy outside and not inside. And so, even if they have to put a band-aid over the issues that they are facing, they have demonstrated time and time again that when it comes, they will come together and do what is necessary. Now, it is said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I think somebody probably needs to point that out to the Jamaica Labour Party, because at the end of the day, in order to form the government, you have to come together and understand who the common enemy is. And that is something that Jamaica Labour Party needs to sit down and examine carefully.
Mark Wignal, how do you see it?
I would have to be foolish not to concur with that. The simple fact is that our electorate is slowly getting there in terms of becoming more and more sensible. And I believe that when the electorate or significant sectors of it look on and see the Labour Party in some sort of a disarray, then they say they'll say to themselves, I mean, how can we give that party the chance to run the country and it can't seem to get its own business together? Now, remember, at the same time, the PNP is having some little jitters. And if you notice where the party is having jitters, it is in quite safe seats. And, so they can afford to have those localized things. And, to some extent, it's going to spill over into the political domain. Mm-hmm. But as Jermaine earlier said, every time it comes on towards the campaign, the PNP seems to get its act together, and everyone comes together, and they just get the job done.
And how much of what we're seeing do you think, because Venetia Phillips, a PNP councillor, she said, in her opinion, it was because, quote, Portia loyalists are seeking to alienate some people. How much of what we're seeing do you think is as a result of the issue of loyalty to whether it be Dr. Phillips's quote-unquote camp and Portia's quote-unquote camp?
Well, actually, is that me?
Yes.
Was that directed to me?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay. I actually like, I'm hearing some disturbance on the line. I actually like hearing the young people, speaking back and forth to each other. I think it is healthy for the party. I wish the JLP would do the same thing instead of some of the older heads, trying to fight within the party instead of fighting what Jermaine called the enemy outside. I'm getting a harder feedback here, and it's making it very difficult for me to make comment. Hello?
We're trying to fix that, Mr. Wignal. I apologize for that.
Yes, we're here.
Okay. Yes, as I was saying, there it goes again. But let me try to talk over it. As I was saying, the PNP, young people in the PNP, it is the business of young people to talk back and forth with each other and to challenge the older folk in the party. That is good. That is good for the growth of the party. And to the extent that, as I said before, it spills over into the political, into the public domain, no problem there. I honestly believe that at this stage, we know, and when a campaign is formally announced, the PNP will get over all of that. I wish I was seeing the same thing in the Jamaica Labour Party, but unfortunately I'm not seeing that.
Right. Now, listeners, we are joined by Pollster Don Anderson. Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, good afternoon to you all. I've been listening to the comments. And I can't say I disagree with anybody at all.
I don't know you doing.
Hey, I'm good, Mark. Everything all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I must agree with everything that has been said so far. The best way to put it is to use a comment by D.K. Duncan all the way back in 1997. The PNP manages this unity much better than the JLP. And a classic comment that has stayed with me all these years. And you're quite right, Mark. As the campaign begins to take shape, you will see the PNP coalition and coming together and putting aside all these rivals and exist. I think it's I probably use another parallel in the during the time when Mr. Thiago was resisting the moves to get him out of the leadership. There were lots of little dissensions within the party, etc., etc. And then when the people, and they said, of course, people said in all the polls that we did, boy, this party is just a fragmented party, always quarreling amongst themselves. I can't win any elections like that. And then when P.J. Patterson resigned and we had something like 5 challenges for the leadership, I said, great, well, let's do a poll. I know what the poll found. People felt that this was democracy at work, to have 5 people challenging for the position. This is democracy at work. And it just tells you how people perceive one party vis-a-vis how they perceive the other.
That is correct.
Rightly so.
And Don Anderson, a lot of people I've noticed are commenting to ask the question, how, because in 2011, for example, and I believe in 2007 and again in 2002, you got it right almost to a T in terms of the lineup of the seats in the parliament. And the question is, what is unique about your methodology as opposed to other pollsters who we've seen go very far off track?
Can we talk about that off here?
The listeners would like the answer.
Well, put it this way. I mean, let's face it. I'm not just a marketer, not a political pollster. I will tell you that political polling is about 10% of my business because we've been in the business of market research for 40 years. We just celebrated 40 years. So that the techniques that you use in terms of getting information are pretty much the same as the one you use for political polling. You just need to make sure you're doing all the right things and you do all the right due diligence. And that's basically our focus.
And based on the feedback because you were out in the field and you got this information, based on the feedback you got from those who were respondents, what advice would you give this afternoon to the JLP's General Secretary and the party leader, Andrew Holness?
Nothing that isn't obvious, eh? And I mean, again, mention has been made of it in the past couple of minutes. The bottom line is divided parties don't win elections. Period.
And Jermaine Nairne, divided parties don't win elections. If you could lay out very clearly for Mr. Andrew Holness and Dr. Chang, what is the strategy to unite the JLP ahead of the polls? What would be your top 3 priorities?
Well, I think inclusiveness. We know about the divide between the Holness and the Shaw camps. What needs to happen is for people to see that people from both sides are being put up, are being included in the decision-making process rather than being divided. I think Mr. Holness himself needs to go out and connect more with people. And as Mr. Wignal said earlier, he can't change how he is, but the engagement must be done in a way that reaches people. So when we look at former Prime Minister Golding, for example, and Portia Simpson-Miller, it's 2 different kinds of charisma that we saw right there. Some people say, there's no way Golding could have gone over Simpson-Miller because of the kind of warmth that she has and the way she connects with people. But then Golding connected with people with words. And so Holness has to now find his sweet spot, so to speak, to reach out to people and to have people believe in him.
And Mark Wignal, your top 3 advice items for them?
Well, I would advise. Well, first of all, the Labour Party, it has to connect with the middle class and those at the base. Usually, those at the base are its most ardent supporters. And it does appear to me that a lot of those in the middle class are being turned off. So both political parties need to connect more with the middle class if they really want to have a great shot at what I'm certain that both of them are figured that they are going to be assured of victory. But it does appear to me that the JLP, under the leadership of Andrew Holness, have lost a window of opportunity, and it may just be too late. Well, it may just be too late for them to come back.
And Don Anderson, finally to you, would you be willing at this point to give a prediction in terms of seat counts that you think will go to either party?
No, I'll tell you why. You know, when you do an individual poll, for example, it's a kind of a shot. It's a kind of a picture. But what is really important is the trend. And we don't have yet a good enough trend of data to be able to say how it will go. Not even to look at the indication, because when you look at a poll that's 7 months apart, you know, I mean, that there are lots of gaps in between. You don't know quite what has happened in between. So I think one would need to certainly look at a few more polls, which hopefully we'll get a chance to do, and then that we'll be able to speak definitively how the elections might go.
Don Anderson, Jermaine Nairne, and Mark Wignal, thank you so very much for joining us here on Talk Jamaica.
Pleasure again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Listeners, speaking there about the recent polling by Don Anderson, finding a statistical dead heat among the two major political parties, and the consensus seems to be that the PNP is gaining ground, because we saw last year that the JLP had a substantial lead on the PNP. That gap has closed significantly, and our commentators seem to agree that if the trend continues as it is, then the PNP may be returned for a second term. That, of course, predicated on the JLP's infighting and failure to unite the party ahead of the election.